The job that was supposed to be easy. London, November 26, 1983. 6:30 a.m. Cold, foggy, dead quiet. The industrial area near Heathrow Airport looked like a ghost town. Streetlights flickered, frost hugged the pavement, and inside Unit 7, a heavily guarded warehouse belonging to Brinks-Mat, security guards were finishing their boring night shift. Everything felt normal. Too normal. Outside, a white van rolled slowly down the road. Inside it sat 6 men, masked, silent, armed, and very, very ready. "You sure about this, man?" Inside the van, Mickey McAvoy leaned forward, checking his watch. 6:38 a.m. He cracked his neck. "All right, boys," he muttered. "Game time." Next to him, Brian Robinson tapped his fingers on the dashboard. "You sure the inside guy ain't gonna screw us?" Robinson whispered. McAvoy smirked. "Nah, relax, man. He's family." He was talking about Anthony Black, the security guard inside the warehouse, the insider, the weak link, the golden ticket. The inside man. Inside Unit 7, Anthony Black stood near the entrance desk, heart pounding, hands sweating. He kept checking the clock. 6:39 a.m. He swallowed hard. "Man, what the hell am I doing?" he whispered to himself. He had already made the biggest mistake of his life. Weeks earlier, he had secretly handed over keys, security details, and shift patterns to his brother-in-law, Robinson. Why? Money. Simple. Dirty. Life-changing money. He told himself it would be easy. Just open the door, look the other way, get rich. But now, standing there in uniform, reality felt heavier than steel. The knock that changed everything. 6:40 a.m. Knock, knock. Anthony froze. There it was, the moment. Another guard shouted from across the room, "Black, door check!" Anthony walked slowly toward the entrance. His legs felt like jelly. Through the glass window, he saw them. Men in security uniforms. Fake ones, but convincing enough. One of them held an ID badge. Anthony opened the door. Big mistake. The second that door cracked open, boom. The robbers stormed inside. Fast, violent, controlled. "Don't move," one shouted. Guns came out. Real ones, loaded ones. Anthony stepped back like he'd seen a ghost. Inside, the other guards froze. One robber grabbed a guard and slammed him against the wall. Another shouted, "Everybody down, now!" No hesitation, no mercy, just raw control. The threat. Within seconds, the robbers had taken over the warehouse. Then things got ugly, very ugly. One of the gang members grabbed a can of petrol. He splashed it across the guards. Cold liquid soaked their uniforms. The smell hit instantly. Gasoline, strong, sharp, deadly. One robber flicked open a lighter. Click. A tiny flame danced in the air. He held it inches from a soaked guard's face. "Listen up," he growled. "You don't open that vault, you burn alive, real slow." The guard's voice shook. All right, don't do this." McAvoy stepped forward, voice calm, dead calm. "Just give us the combination, man. Nobody gets hurt." The guards looked at each other, terrified, sweating. One whispered, "Okay, I'll open it." The vault opens. This was supposed to be a simple cash job. The gang believed there would be foreign currency worth around £1 million. Nothing crazy, just a solid score. But fate had different plans. The vault door creaked, heavy, slow, metal groaning. Inside, wooden crates, stacked, neatly arranged. One robber stepped forward. "Yo, what's this?" He cracked open a crate, paused, stared, then whispered, "Holy hell!" Inside were gold bars, shiny, heavy, perfect. Row after row, stack after stack, gold bullion, thousands of bars, nearly 3 tons of pure gold sitting right in front of them. Silence filled the room. Then one robber laughed, slow, disbelieving. "Yo, this ain't no small job." McAvoy stepped forward, picked up one bar, heavy as a brick, worth more than most people earned in years. His eyes widened. "Boys," he whispered, "we just hit the jackpot." The biggest surprise of their lives. They had planned to steal cash. Instead, they had stumbled onto 26 million pounds of gold, diamonds, and cash, one of the largest hauls in history. Robinson shook his head slowly. This just went from grocery money to lottery money. One of the gang members whistled. "Man, we ain't ready for this kind of heat." McAvoy looked around, thinking fast, calculating risk, calculating greed. Finally, he spoke. Change of plans. Everyone looked at him. He smiled. "We take it all." The longest 2 hours. Loading gold isn't easy. Each bar weighed around 12.5 kilograms, heavy, awkward, backbreaking. They used forklifts, sweated hard, moved crate after crate. Minutes turned into hours. One robber grunted. "Yo, this ain't robbery anymore. This is a BAM workout." Another laughed nervously. "Yeah, bro, we lifting more metal than a gym." But fear stayed in the air. Every second felt dangerous. Every sound felt like police sirens waiting to explode. The escape. By 8:30 a.m., the job was done. The van was packed, heavy, full of stolen fortune. One guard finally triggered the alarm. Too late, way too late. The robbers drove away, slow, careful, silent. Behind them, they left chaos, fear, and one of the biggest mysteries in criminal history. Because stealing gold was only the beginning. The real nightmare? Trying to sell it. Turning gold into cash. The Swiss connection begins. London, November 26, 1983. 10:25 a.m. Same day as the robbery. The white van rolled into a quiet industrial yard. No cameras, no witnesses, no mistakes. At least, that was the plan. Inside the van, the gang sat silent, staring at the mountain of gold bars stacked behind them. Nearly 3 tons of gold bars, worth 26 million pounds, more money than they had ever dreamed of. But now, reality hit different. "Yo, what do we even do with this?" Brian Robinson lit a cigarette with shaky fingers. He stared at the gold like it was radioactive. "Man, we got the jackpot, but how the hell we're gonna spend it?" Nobody answered, because deep down, they all knew something. Cash is easy to spend. Gold is a whole different beast. Mickey McAvoy leaned against the wall, thinking hard. "We can't just walk into a bank with this stuff," he said. "They'll sniff us out in 5 seconds. One robber nodded. "Yeah, and pawn shops? Forget it. They'll call the cops before lunch." Silence filled the room again. Heavy, uncomfortable, dangerous. Then Robinson spoke quietly. "I know someone." Everyone turned. McAvoy narrowed his eyes. "Who?" Robinson hesitated, then whispered, "A guy who knows guys." Classic underworld talk. Enter the Fixers. Within days, word spread through the London underground. Not loudly, not publicly, but quietly, carefully, like smoke slipping through cracks. Soon new names entered the picture. Dangerous names, smart names, greedy names. One of them was Kenneth Noy, a man known in criminal circles as a dealer in gold. Not flashy, not loud, but very connected, very careful, very dangerous. The first meeting. December 1983, South London, private house. Kenneth Noy sat calmly at his dining table, coffee steaming, eyes cold. Across from him sat McAvoy and Robinson. A wooden crate sat between them, heavy, silent. Noy tapped the crate lightly. "Mind if I take a look?" McAvoy nodded. "Go ahead." Noy lifted the lid. Inside, gold bars gleamed under the room's dim light. Perfect, pure, untouched. Noy didn't smile, didn't celebrate, didn't react like a rookie. Instead, he leaned back and exhaled slowly. "Well, damn," he muttered. Then he looked straight at them. You boys didn't just rob a warehouse, you robbed the damn world. The ugly truth about gold. McAvoy leaned forward. So you can move it? Noy chuckled softly. Move it? Yeah, maybe. He picked up a gold bar, weighed it in his hand. But not like this. Robinson frowned. What do you mean? Noy smirked. This gold is marked, tracked, registered. Every bar has numbers. He tapped the metal. This stuff is hot, real hot. Silence. Then McAvoy spoke. So what's the play? Noy's answer came cold and simple. We melt it. Turning gold into ghost metal. Melting stolen gold was the only way to erase its identity, destroy serial numbers, remove proof, turn evidence into money. But melting gold required special furnaces, skilled workers, secret locations, and nerves of steel. And most importantly, international contacts. Because once melted, the gold had to disappear into global markets, and that meant one thing: Swiss connections. You ever heard of Switzerland? Late that night, Noy leaned closer, voice low, careful. You ever heard how Switzerland works? He asked. Robinson nodded slowly. Banks, right? Noy smirked. Not just banks, secrets. He tapped the table. Swiss refiners, Swiss traders, Swiss money channels. McAvoy crossed his arms. You're saying this gold's going overseas? Noy nodded once. Yeah, some of it, yeah. Then he added, and once it's melted, nobody knows where it came from. That was the moment the robbery turned from local crime into international conspiracy. The smelting begins. Hidden workshops were set up, quiet locations, industrial spaces, far from police eyes. Furnaces roared day and night, gold melted into liquid fire, bright, blinding, dangerous. One worker wiped sweat from his face. Man, this stuff looks like lava. Another nodded. Yeah, but worth more than oil. Molten gold poured into new molds, fresh shapes, fresh identities, fresh lies. The original Brinks-Mat gold was slowly disappearing, becoming untraceable, becoming invisible. Meanwhile, police wake up. London, Brinks-Mat headquarters. Police officers walked through the crime scene, careful, focused, silent. This ain't just robbery anymore. This was national news, international news. A senior detective whispered, "This ain't random." Another officer nodded. Inside job. They already suspected Anthony Black, the security guard, the weak link. Within days, he was arrested, and under pressure, he started talking. The first crack in the gang. Inside the interrogation room, Anthony Black looked broken, exhausted, terrified. A detective leaned forward. You help us, we help you. Black swallowed hard. They said nobody would get hurt, he whispered. His voice shook. They told me it would be quick. The detective watched silently, then asked, Who set it up? Black closed his eyes, and slowly he started naming names. Meanwhile, greed gets louder. Back in the criminal world, money started flowing, but not evenly, not fairly, not safely. Arguments began. Distrust spread. One gang member slammed his fist on a table. Yo, where's my cut? Another shouted back, Relax, man, you'll get paid. But everyone knew the truth. Too much money creates too much tension, and tension leads to betrayal. The first signs of blood. Kenneth Noy sat alone one night, watching television. News reports flashed across the screen. Police confirmed the stolen gold is now believed to be moving through underground channels. Noy muted the TV. He leaned back, thinking, planning, calculating risk. Because deep down, he knew something dangerous. Money laundering brings heat, but gold laundering brings war. And the war was just getting started.
Murders, betrayals, and the Swiss money trail. London, 1984. 1 year after the heist. By now, the gold from the robbery wasn't gold anymore. not in its original form. Most of it had been melted down, reshaped, and quietly pushed into the international market. Some of it flowed through shady dealers, some through legitimate businesses, and some disappeared into foreign channels, including routes tied to Swiss gold markets and banking networks. But while the criminals were getting rich, the police were getting smarter and more dangerous. This ain't just theft anymore. At a London police office, detectives gathered around a large evidence board. Photos, names, arrows, connections. A senior detective tapped the board. "This ain't just robbery anymore," he said. "This is organized crime, international level." Another officer nodded. "And somebody inside the system is helping to move the gold." That was the scary part, because moving that much gold required refineries, buyers, financial networks, and clean paperwork. None of that happened without help. Big help. Kenneth No's quiet empire. By now, Kenneth No had become one of the central figures behind the scenes. He wasn't the guy with the gun. He wasn't the guy who stormed the warehouse. He was something worse. The cleaner. The man who helped turn stolen gold into legal money. At his home in West Kingsdown, he kept things low-key, quiet life, nice property, no drama. But inside, big business was happening. One evening, No sat with a trusted associate. They were reviewing documents, invoices, shipping records, fake deals. The associate whispered, "You sure this stuff won't trace back?" No leaned back, cool as ice. "Relax, man," he said. "Once it's melted, it's history." Then he added quietly, "And history don't talk." Police get a break. 1985, Kent, England. Police intelligence began pointing towards suspicious gold activity. Unusual amounts of gold were entering legal markets. Gold that didn't have proper records. Gold that looked too clean, too perfect, too sudden. Detectives began surveillance, watching movements, tracking vehicles, listening to whispers from informants. One detective muttered, "This gold didn't vanish, it got recycled." And they were right, because stolen gold had begun mixing into legitimate supply chains. Jewelry, investment gold, industrial gold, everywhere. The fatal night. Then came the moment that shocked everyone, a moment that turned the robbery into a murder case. January 1985. Kenneth No's property, West Kingsdown. Late at night, police officers secretly entered No's property. They believed stolen gold was being stored there. They moved quietly through the darkness, flashlights off, steps careful, silent operation. But something went wrong, very wrong. Kenneth No spotted movement outside, a shadow, someone on his land. He grabbed a knife, walked into the darkness. Then, everything exploded. Shouting, struggle, panic. Moments later, a man lay dead. The victim was Detective Constable John Fordham, a police officer, killed during the confrontation.
Shock across the country. News spread fast. A police officer dead, connected to the Brinks-Mat gold. That changed everything. This wasn't just robbery anymore. This wasn't just fraud. Now, it was murder. At the police station, officers stood silent. One detective slammed his fist on the table. "This just got personal," he growled. Another whispered, "We're not stopping until we bury every name connected to this." Noy's defense. Kenneth Noy was arrested, charged, interrogated. Inside the courtroom, tension filled the air. The prosecutor spoke firmly. "You killed a police officer." Noy didn't flinch. His lawyer stepped forward. "My client acted in self-defense," he said. "He believed he was under attack." That argument shocked many, because Noy claimed he didn't know the man was police. He believed he was defending his home. Months passed. Evidence was reviewed. Witnesses testified. Finally, the court reached a decision. Kenneth Noy was acquitted of murder, accepting his claim of self-defense. But his freedom didn't last long, because authorities still suspected him of handling stolen gold, and they weren't done, not even close. Meanwhile, the Swiss trail grows. Behind the scenes, financial investigators followed money trails, complex transfers, hidden accounts, shell companies. Some transactions pointed toward European financial routes, including links suspected to pass through Swiss financial systems, known for secrecy and private banking traditions. A financial investigator stared at paperwork. "This money's moving like smoke," he muttered. "Every time we grab it, it slips away." Another officer replied, "Yeah, but smoke leaves smell." And that smell was getting stronger. Greed turns into fear. Back in the criminal world, things were changing. Money had started flowing. Some gang members got rich, new houses, flashy cars, expensive lifestyles. But wealth brought attention, and attention brought fear. One gang member whispered to another, "Yo, cops watching everyone now." The other replied nervously, "Yeah, this heat ain't cooling down." Trust within the group began falling apart. Paranoia spread. Arguments grew louder. Everyone started asking the same question: who's gonna get caught first? The first major arrests. By the mid-1980s, police had gathered enough evidence. Names were confirmed, connections mapped, surveillance paid off. One by one, arrests began. Doors smashed open, suspects dragged out, handcuffs clicking, mugshots taken. Among those convicted later were key figures connected to the robbery and gold distribution network. But the biggest mystery remained. Where did all the gold go? Because despite arrests, despite trials, despite years of investigation, a huge portion of the gold was never fully recovered. Not then, not later, not ever. The curse begins. By now, rumors spread through criminal circles. People whispered something strange, something chilling. They called it the Brinks-Mat curse. Because many people connected to the gold began facing strange fates, murders, disappearances, financial ruin, suspicious deaths. One criminal reportedly told a friend, "Man, this gold ain't money, it's poison." And history would prove he wasn't wrong.
The curse of the gold. Killings, missing millions, and the global fallout. Late 1980s, London and beyond. By now, the gold from the 1983 robbery had traveled far, farther than anyone had expected. It had been melted, reshaped, sold, resold, and quietly mixed into the global gold supply. Jewelry stores, investment vaults, industrial markets. Some experts later believed that a large percentage of gold circulating in the UK market at the time had traces linked back to the stolen Brinks-Mat gold. But while the gold moved smoothly, the people connected to it, not so lucky. Too many people know too much. Inside a smoky back room in London, two criminals sat across from each other. Whispers, low voices, eyes watching every shadow. One man leaned forward. "Yo, this thing's getting messy," he muttered. The other nodded slowly. "Yeah, too many people know too much now." That was the problem with massive crimes. They start small, but they grow. And when too many people share secrets, somebody always ends up dead. The financial side turns dirty. By the late 1980s, investigators realized something shocking. The gold robbery wasn't just about stolen metal anymore. It had turned into massive financial fraud. Money from the stolen gold was being pumped into businesses, real estate, construction deals, luxury properties, front companies, and fake investments. One investigator flipped through files and muttered, "This ain't just crime, this is money laundering on steroids." They weren't wrong. Huge amounts of stolen wealth were used to finance property developments across parts of England. Some projects collapsed, some vanished, and some turned into massive financial disasters. The first major gangland murders. Then came the violence, real violence, the kind that makes headlines, the kind that spreads fear across criminal networks. 1988, South London. One morning, a man connected to Brinks-Mat Gold was found murdered, shot, cold, professional hit. Rumors spread fast.
"Loose ends," one criminal whispered. Another replied, "Yeah, somebody cleaning house." Because when millions are involved, trust disappears and survival becomes the only rule. The killing of Charlie Miller. One of the most shocking murders tied to the Brinks-Mat fallout was the killing of Charlie Miller. He had connections to gold distribution networks. He knew people, he knew deals, and most importantly, he knew secrets. 1998, South London. Late at night, Miller was walking near his home. Quiet street, no witnesses, no warning. Then shots, multiple rounds fired, fast, precise. He collapsed onto the pavement, dead within minutes. Police later believed his death was connected to disputes over stolen gold money and criminal debts. One officer later said quietly, "This gold keeps killing people, even years later."
Meanwhile, investigators discovered something even more disturbing. The stolen gold wasn't just staying in Britain. It had crossed borders, international markets, foreign traders, and complex financial channels. Some money trails hinted at movement through European banking routes, including systems historically known for strict secrecy laws. Investigators believed, once melted, once sold, once transferred, the gold became nearly impossible to trace. One financial expert said during an inquiry, "This gold didn't disappear, it blended into the world economy." And that was the nightmare scenario. Because stolen gold doesn't just vanish, it hides forever. The lifestyle that gave them away. Many criminals connected to the robbery made one classic mistake. They spent big, too big. New houses, luxury cars, flashy living. One detective pointed at photos of expensive properties. "Look at this," he said. "Guys with no income living like millionaires." Another officer smirked. "Yeah, that's how you catch greedy criminals." Some were arrested years after the robbery, not because of direct evidence, but because their wealth raised suspicion. Money always leaves a trail, even when gold doesn't. The curse becomes legend. By the 1990s, people began whispering about something strange, a pattern. Too many deaths, too many arrests, too many ruined lives connected to one robbery. One criminal reportedly told a journalist, "Man, that gold's cursed." It became known in newspapers and police circles as the Brinks-Mat curse. Because over time, multiple suspects were murdered. Several key figures died violently. Others lost fortunes. Many ended up in prison. And still, not all the gold was recovered. Not even close. The unrecoverable fortune. Investigators estimated that most of the stolen gold was never recovered, not by police, not by governments, not by banks. Because once melted, it lost its identity. Some experts later believed that part of the stolen gold ended up in jewelry, investment bullion, industrial materials, possibly even items worn by ordinary people, people who had no clue where the metal came from. That thought terrified investigators because it meant the crime never truly ended. It just changed shape. Meanwhile, the hunt continues. Even into the 1990s, police units kept investigating. New leads surfaced, old names reappeared, cold cases reopened. Every few years, another arrest, another trial, another revelation. But the central mystery remained. Where did the rest of the money go? And who still held it? Because someone, somewhere, was still living off the gold. The legacy of fear. By now, the Brinks-Mat robbery had become legendary, not just for its size, but for its consequences. Police officers used it as a case study. Financial investigators studied it for years. Criminals feared its history. One retired detective later said, "This wasn't just a robbery, it was a chain reaction." And the chain still wasn't finished.
The missing gold, final arrests, and the mystery that still haunts the world. 1990s, London, England. More than a decade had passed since that cold morning in November 1983, but the shadow of the gold heist was still alive, still dangerous, still unfinished. Because while many criminals had been caught, a huge portion of the money and gold had vanished forever, and police weren't giving up. Not yet. The final net tightens. By the early 1990s, investigators had built stronger cases. Years of surveillance, financial tracking, witness statements, and informants from inside the criminal world. One morning, police teams moved in again. Doors smashed open, suspects dragged out of bed, handcuffs snapping tight. One officer shouted, "Stay down, police!" Another suspect yelled back, "Yo, I ain't done nothing." But the evidence said otherwise. Many individuals connected to handling stolen gold were finally convicted. Some got heavy prison sentences. Others lost fortunes built on stolen wealth. But even after all that, the full truth never came out. The man who helped launder millions. One of the major figures later linked to laundering large amounts of stolen gold money was Brian Perry. He wasn't part of the original robbery crew, but he played a huge role later, moving money, handling transactions, trying to make dirty cash look clean. Authorities accused him of helping hide millions made from the gold. When investigators followed financial trails, his name kept appearing again and again and again. One investigator reportedly said, "This guy wasn't stealing gold, he was washing it," and that made him just as dangerous. The money that built an empire then collapsed. Some of the stolen gold money was invested into property deals, massive ones, apartment buildings, construction projects, land developments. At first it looked like success, buildings rising, money multiplying, but then everything started falling apart. One major property scheme funded with stolen gold profits collapsed. Banks lost millions, investors were ruined, businesses shut down. One financial investigator muttered, "This gold didn't just rob a warehouse, it robbed the economy." The damage went far beyond the original crime. The death of Kenneth Noe's freedom. Though Kenneth Noe had earlier avoided a murder conviction, his legal troubles didn't end. Years later, his life took another dark turn. 1996, England. A man named Stephen Cameron was killed during a violent road rage incident. The attacker? Kenneth Noe. This time, the outcome was different. Police arrested him. Evidence stacked up. Witnesses spoke. The case moved fast. In 2000, Kenneth Noe was convicted of murder, sentenced to life in prison. One detective later said he dodged one storm, but not the next. Many saw it as part of the so-called Brinks-Mat curse catching up with him. The gold that never came back. Here's the truth that still shocks people. Most of the stolen gold was never recovered. Not half, not even close. Investigators believed that a large portion of the original gold had been melted and mixed into the global market. Once that happened, tracking it became nearly impossible. Some estimates suggested that only a small fraction of the stolen gold was ever found. The rest, gone forever, hidden in plain sight. You might be wearing it. One retired investigator once said something chilling during an interview. He looked at a gold ring on his hand and said, "You know what's crazy? Some of this gold could be anywhere now." He paused, then added, "You might be wearing it and never even know." That idea haunted many people because it meant the robbery didn't just affect criminals, it touched everyday life in invisible ways. The real cost of the heist. People often talk about the money, the gold, the luxury, but the real story was darker.
Over the years connected to the Brinks-Mat fallout, multiple people were murdered, many criminals spent decades in prison, several fortunes vanished, financial scandals shook major institutions, businesses collapsed, families destroyed, all because of one decision: to open one vault on one cold morning in 1983. The legend that never died. Even decades later, the heist remained famous. Police academies studied it, financial investigators analyzed it, journalists wrote books about it, because it wasn't just a robbery, it was a massive theft, an international laundering operation, a chain of violent crimes, a financial disaster, a criminal legend. One retired detective once summed it up perfectly. This wasn't just about stealing gold, it was about what happened after. And what happened after changed criminal history forever. The final truth. Let's break it down, straight and simple. The robbery happened in 1983. Around £26 million worth of gold and valuables were stolen. The gold was melted and distributed into global markets. Several criminals were arrested and convicted. Multiple murders were linked to the aftermath. A large portion of the stolen gold was never recovered. The case became one of the most famous gold robberies in history. And to this day, some questions remain unanswered. Not because police stopped trying, but because the gold was already gone. The end.